I call the honourable member Dennis O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Mr Chairman, this budget, as I said in the first reading, is a penny-pinching budget, and this bill is the most pathetic of the penny-pinching measures in it. It imposes costs on the elderly. It confers absolutely no benefits whatsoever to them anywhere in it. So for them, it's a zero budget, and it's a zero care budget for the elderly. And Mr Chairman, in the first reading, I referred to the Prime Minister, Mr John Key, as Mr Australia because of his policies and intentions to ensure that many of our most talented young people will disappear to Australia as a result of government policy. But maybe it would be more appropriate to refer to him as Mr Fagan, because he is pinching pennies from the pockets of the elderly and, of course, from newspaper delivery boys. And that's the level at which we see the National Party's pitch to the elderly in this budget. And it's an insult to the elderly of this country, and it follows an insult by the Prime Minister to the elderly during the last election campaign, in which the Prime Minister referred to New Zealand First supporters dying off. Of course, in fact, more and more New Zealanders are going to be reaching retirement age. So it is the opposite, in effect, to that which the Prime Minister referred to. And it'll be his problem to regain their confidence in national policies. Well, if he did want to do that, this budget sure ain't going anywhere near there. And certainly not by the measure proposed in this bill. They will lose confidence in the elderly people of this country in droves. And where is the strategy to deal with the elderly? Where is the strategy in this budget or in government policy to support the elderly long term, to ensure funding for superannuation for 65-year-olds in the future? There is nothing but silence for the elderly in this budget, except, of course, for this bill, which would only make life harder for them. Mr Chairman, only New Zealand First can be relied on to support superannuation for elderly from 65 years permanently. At least the Labour Party is open about its policy to increase it to 67, but that will never be adopted by New Zealand First. Mr Speaker, Mr Chairman, the government was hoping to slide this bill through unnoticed. And when you have a look at it, you can see that that's not surprising. Maybe they just forgot to do a press release, or perhaps couldn't do one in this case. Well, I can help them. I could help them do the press release. I could tell the people of New Zealand how elderly are being treated, how elderly are being punished in this budget and by this measure. And, Mr Chairman, the government didn't consult, didn't assess negative effects on the elderly or their families, didn't allow reference to the Select Committee, didn't care about the elderly, didn't care about their views. And that's been typical about their approach to this all along. This is a disappointing budget for the elderly, and you compare that to New Zealand First policy. We would, if we were part of a government right now, be looking at a 10% reduction in power bills for the elderly, for gold card holders, and a $10 cap on doctor's visit and first year free altogether. Those are the sorts of policies that the elderly in this country want to see, not the kind of thing we see in this bill. And I want to talk next, Mr Chairman, about the Minister's claim about indexation somehow preserving the assets. What utter nonsense that is. In fact, this policy ensures that those assets will be whittled away, and whittled away sooner, and more people will be forced to reach the threshold sooner as well. Otherwise, how indeed could the money be saved at all? And, Mr Chairman, National is making a political football out of this issue. This is not what the elderly want, and not what the people of New Zealand want either. What they do need, what the elderly do want, Mr Chairman,
I call the Honourable Annette King.
Mr. Chairman, I would really appreciate the Minister